This video is all about understanding why you think your life sucks and how to change your life so it's awesome. Pretty cool stuff, huh? I think so. I am Brett Michael Phillips. I am the founder and creator of the Awakening Dynamic System of Energy Healing and Higher Consciousness. And we're here today with video number 2 of 7 in our series on transcending the ego. And as I promised in the first video, you will look back at this, if you walk this path, if you stick with it, and you will see this as the beginning of the end of your suffering. That's totally legit. So why is it that we think that our lives suck? Why are so many of us struggling and suffering? We don't have enough money. We don't have enough time. We don't feel loved. We don't enjoy our work. We fight with our family or our neighbors. Things go wrong. Why does this happen? Why can't life just be pleasant, or at least a little more pleasant? And so here's the answer. It's not your fault, but you were trained to live ass backwards. I mentioned in the first video, it's almost as if you're a hockey player and you show up at the arena and everyone else is playing basketball. And you wonder why you keep getting called for fouls and getting thrown out of the game and losing every time. You were taught the wrong game. There's really nothing wrong with you. What there is something wrong with is what you were taught by your teachers, your parents, schools, the media, the government, right? And so I'm going to borrow a metaphor from Michael Singer, who's one of my favorite spiritual teachers. He teaches pretty much the same thing as me, what we call awakening, Advaita Vedanta, non-duality, whatever term you like to use. And his metaphor is this. Imagine your life is like a field, right? Imagine a huge football field. And so the goal in life is to get to the highest elevation possible. And so there's hills and valleys on the field. And basically, the hills are the things you want, right? You want to get as high as possible. The valleys are the things you don't want, the things you want to avoid. So to connect this to our real lives, the top of the hill in this metaphor would be making lots of money, being really healthy, being in a great mood, having lots of loving friends, family, enjoyable work, etc., right? And so we're constantly struggling to get up to the top of a hill. But we keep sliding down into the valleys. The valleys are the things we don't like. Pain, loss, suffering, breakups, divorces, death of a loved one, all those things, right? And so if you're trying to navigate on this really uneven field, it's difficult. It's a lot of work to bike up a hill, isn't it? I know I grew up in a suburb where to get to the closest grocery store or my high school, there was a steep 3-mile hill. And so when we're living from the ego, this field is full of hills and valleys. There's all this terrain, right? We go up and we go down. And we're always struggling to stay out of the valleys and get up to the hills, but we keep getting knocked off. And so you only feel good when you're up high, right? Well, what does life look like to a master? To a master, their life is pretty flat. No matter where they are in that field, they're perfectly okay. They don't need to be up higher. They may enjoy it, of course, right? Preferences never disappear. But how they impact us and the meaning we give it does. So next, we'll extend the metaphor a little bit. If you've ever ridden a bike, you know that it's easiest to get around on a bicycle when the terrain is flat, right? So if it's flat, it's pretty easy. Most people, if you're in any kind of decent physical shape, could pretty easily bike 5, 10, 20, maybe 30 miles. If it's flat, that's the key, right? That's what it's like to live as a master. You can go almost anywhere you want because it's all flat. It's easy. But when we live from the ego, there's terrain, right? All these hills and valleys. And so if you've ever ridden a bike on uneven terrain, you know that the amount of energy required to go up a hill is huge. And yeah, you get to coast a little bit when you come down, but it takes way more work and effort to go up the hill and come down it than it does to go the same distance on the flat. And so that's what I want to emphasize. The masters, those that are of very high consciousness, they don't have a lot of demands on the world. They're going to be okay no matter where they are. But when we live from the ego, we have all these preferences and likes and dislikes and fears and attractions, right? And that makes the journey so much more difficult. So for a master to go 5 miles, which metaphorically might be to make $1 million or find love or to get out of pain, whatever your goal is, right? That's not hard. Most people could bike 5 miles on the flat if you're healthy. But if there's all these hills and valleys, that's going to be a really difficult ride. You're going to exert way more energy going up a hill and coming down it than you would just going on the flat. And that metaphorically is why we think our lives suck. Because we're so consumed with the ego and its ideas about what is good and bad in our life. It makes navigating the world so much harder. And so in this sense, awakening, finding the true self, spiritual ascension, makes it so much easier to achieve your other goals. It really does make it easier to make money, to find love, to find health, to find purpose, because we've gotten rid of all this annoying terrain, all this up and down, right? And don't worry, if this confuses you a little bit, I got lots of other cool metaphors and explanations coming, right? But I really enjoy Michael Singer's work, and I wanted to expand on his metaphor. So the big picture is this. When you live from the ego, you'll have all these likes and dislikes. My life has to be like this, but not that. I have to have this job, not that one. I have to be with this person, not that one. And you can do that. But if you let the ego take control, you can only be happy and feel good about your life when you're achieving those goals. In other words, when you're up on a hill, right? But it takes a lot of work to get there. A lot of work. It's going to exhaust you, frustrate you. I'm going to offer another metaphor here, borrowed from Buddhist philosophy, called the roller coaster of karma. And it's a really good one. But before we get into that, I'll just mention, if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe. I think it's cool stuff. YouTube needs to know. And if you want to go deeper into this, I got some cool links in the description. You can register for a free online live interactive Healathon webinar and check out my End of Suffering program that's designed to guide you step by step through everything you need to end your suffering. Awesome. Thank you for the like and the subscribe. What's the second metaphor? In Buddhist philosophy, they have this great metaphor called the roller coaster of karma. What does it mean? Well, it means that as we move through our lives, the roller coaster goes up and the roller coaster goes down, right? The roller coaster goes up and the roller coaster goes down. And most of us are only happy when the roller coaster is up. That's our metaphor again for making money, being in love, enjoying your work, having a, quote, good life, at least according to the idea of the ego, right? But the nature of a roller coaster is such that however much it goes up, it must also come down. Why? Every roller coaster I've ever been on, and I've been on a lot because I used to love roller coasters when I was a teenager, you get on and get off the roller coaster at the same place. It's that simple. So if the roller coaster goes up, it must come down. If it goes down, it must come up. And when you live from the ego, you're basically riding this roller coaster of karma. And when you're going up, you're like, hey, look at me. Life is good. I'm making money, right? I have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a family, own a home, have a bunch of money, whatever it is, right? Whatever your thing is, it's all cool. And when it's going down, you're like, oh my God, things are terrible. Life sucks. I lost my job. I made a bad investment. I got divorced. My animals died, whatever it is that brings us down. And if you live from the ego, you're only going to find purpose and meaning and joy when you're going up. When we can transcend the ego, we can find joy and purpose all the time. We're no longer dependent on this vast universe and the other 8 billion people on this world to cooperate to make sure we're going to where we want to be. And so to revisit the roller coaster metaphor, the only way to transcend the ego is to let go of this idea that your life can only be good or enjoyable when it's going the way you think it should. And hey, if you're powerful enough to make the whole world be exactly the way you want all the time, I'd love to hear your trick. Brent's got an ego too, of course. I want to make more money, feel better, live longer, have more success, all that stuff, right? But if you live according to letting the ego drive, you're guaranteed to have a lot of your life be miserable. Is it possible to get off this roller coaster? Absolutely. By transcending the ego. Now, that doesn't mean we're getting rid of it. We're not killing the ego. And honestly, I think a huge mistake a lot of spiritual teachers make, a huge mistake, is they tell you that the ego is the enemy. They tell you that the ego must be defeated or destroyed or beaten into submission. No. Terrible, terrible ideas. That does not work. We simply must put the ego into its place and transcend it. And in the next couple of videos, I'm going to give you some specific techniques and insights in exactly how to do that. And so before we wrap up, I'm going to ask, please put a comment in here. I'd love to hear from everyone watching this. What's something you think you need to have to be happy? And no judgment. And I'll offer that maybe there's a way to be happy without it. Because all those demands, I have to have this, I have to have that, I can't have this, I can't have that. That's the terrain, right? That's the roller coaster. And so the last metaphor I'll offer here is to transcend the ego, is to get past winning and losing, to get past the results. And so I remember one of the great spiritual teachings I learned was, oddly enough, from a baseball game. And the announcer for the Dodgers, I'm a Dodgers fan. I hope I didn't just lose half my subscribers there, but there it is, right? Orel Hershiser, who used to be one of their pitchers, he was a star in the 80s and 90s, said this. He said, in baseball, everybody loves to win. But the real champions, the real stars, love preparing to win. In other words, if you go out to see a baseball game and you view it from the ego, you're going to be happy if your team wins and sad if they lose, right? That's normal. That's sports. That's living at the effect of the ego. It must be this. It can't be that. Instead, can you enjoy the smell of the grass, the crack of the bat, the hot dog, the beer, whatever? If you can experience and enjoy the entire game without needing a win or a loss, you have transcended the game. You're going to have a good time no matter what happens. And that's exactly what I will encourage you to do with your entire life. Transcend the winning and losing. It's still there. You'll still like winning and you'll still not like losing. But no matter whether it's win or lose, you can always come away with a positive experience. That's the purpose of this series, and more broadly, all of my work. So that's all we got for now. This is Brent Michael Phillips signing off, and I'll see you very soon with video number 3 in this series, where I'm going to give you some very specific techniques and insights and things to do to start your process of transcending the ego and seeing results. Cool stuff, huh? And so until next time, please take care and namaste.